One of those, your competitors, Smith AI, does the same thing. But the thing is, the biggest challenge that my clients, when we want to build them custom stuff, Smith AI starts to not understand in noise and nuisance situation. So somebody calling from the street, there's a lot of noise, traffic is going on, people are speaking. It keeps on asking the questions again and again. How K solves that problem, which Smith still cannot. The biggest challenge that we've faced is latency. But most of these agents, when they are asked with a certain question which isn't in their database, they tend to take longer. So how have you solved that problem?
I was working in a law firm when I saw AI just explode. I saw it being adopted in other industries, and I said that the law is in the need of being updated in general because it tends to be very old-fashioned.
So most people spend 20 years in law and start looking towards the golf courses. And my next guest looked at the friction in his own practice and decided to build a solution for the entire industry. So Eric Hoffman is a veteran trial attorney and a founder of the AI Esquire. He is the creator of K, the first AI voice receptionist built by a lawyer for the lawyers. So, welcome to the show, Eric.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Right. So, Eric, basically, I help law firms connect their SaaS tools, and the biggest leak I see is the gap between a phone ringing and a lead appearing in the CRM. So, I've studied that K solves the answering part, but for tech-forward firm, where does the data go next?
So in terms of answering phone, it's amazing the statistics. There's 70% of phone calls go unanswered. I found that to be incredible. So I think utilizing AI technology, which is right there and available for the law firms to use, AI receptionists are a fantastic solution. It's why I got into that, because we created one that will answer the phone 24 hours a day. You know, you won't miss a call. Besides that, there's also the intake factor. There's specific questions that have to be asked when you start a conversation with a new client. It's a very important part of the dynamic of the law firm. So we had to make sure there were proper guardrails in place for confidentiality reasons, and for little things like the agent couldn't be quote unquote practicing law, couldn't be giving legal advice on the phone. Sometimes a client will ask, do I have a case? How much money can I get? You can't really answer those questions if it's an AI receptionist. So we just designed what I think is the next step, and that is an AI powered receptionist.
Right. So you talked about lead qualification. I think it is one of the biggest problems that lawyers face today. So when you were practicing the law, what was the loss that was basically you were seeing without lead qualification?
So I saw a lot of cases were going, a lot of phone calls, were not being answered. So what happened was, when I did reach a client for the first time, say I would do my first outreach or my first meeting with a client, they would sometimes tell me that they had trouble reaching us, and they actually called the next lawyer on the Google search. And luckily, we did manage to capture them. But it scared me enough to say, and I pictured how it looks from a client's perspective. You're nervous and scared about a car accident or a slip and fall. You're injured. It's not a wonderful situation, and you're calling someone for help, similar to calling a doctor when you're sick. You need somebody who's going to be there and be responsive. So, you pull up a Google search maybe for local attorneys, and you start calling, and obviously the one who answers first is going to get the first shot at that. So I started to really get a good picture of what the client goes through and why it's so important to be that firm that answers the phone first. It's not, it sounds like a small thing, your phones, and, it's a law firm. You think telephones are a minor part that should be taken care of. But like I said, the stats are 70% of phone calls aren't answered. And like I said, the clients are just going to call the next firm. And I saw that happening, and it was scary.
Right. And also, basically, we work in the same industry, but what I see is that most of the time, if you miss a call or you don't pick a call effectively, I think 95% clients within the 5 minutes just book another service. And that's one of the biggest, losses for a law firm, because you're not, you're competing on speed. And if you're lacking on that, that's basically ineffective. So now, once the AI picks up the call, obviously it's instant, so you're connected. Now, the next step is, how would a law firm ensure that it asks the right questions so that they also have a problem, and that is, maybe the person who's calling them might not be the client they want to work with.
Right. That's a great question, because I feel that gave me an advantage as an attorney when I was developing this product. I felt that I understood what you just mentioned, that not every client, time obviously is very important for attorneys. Time is everything. So you don't want to waste the attorney's time with a meeting with a potential client that might, there are a few things. Maybe they're represented by another attorney, or maybe the accident happened too long ago and there's a statute of limitations issue. Or they maybe haven't gone to medical treatment and the accident happened several months ago. In a personal injury case, that is a big problem, because when you're going to make a claim, one of the first things they ask is, what are the damages? What are the medicals? They'll say, the medical costs. If they haven't been to treatment, then that number is 0, and that's not a very impressive case. So yeah, there are these questions are worked into the intake with the agent. We named her K, so pardon me if I refer to her as K. So K will ask questions like, do you have another attorney working with you? And simply yes or no question. She'll ask, are you currently being treated by a doctor? So simply we just put those questions in there as qualifying questions. So before she makes the appointment, those questions are answered in the affirmative. We hope, if they're no, they'll politely say that it's something that we can't help you with, but you might want to call another law firm. So it's a very polite, turn down, I guess, but we do have that guardrail in place. It's very important that the time isn't wasted on clients that might not be actual cases.
Right. And basically, following up on this question, see, not every lead is qualified. Then there is another problem, which is not every lead is highly qualified. Some leads are ones that you really, really want to capture instantly. And then there are some leads which are of medium priority. So what I see a lot of firms do is their paralegals create sort of a lead scoring system. Does K ensure that manual process goes away and now paralegal time is saved?
It does its own qualification. If the injuries are severe, meaning there's several things that cause it to be transferred to a live attorney. That's the way we have our gradation system, where the very serious calls, the high value ones, are given to an attorney right away. they're not even given the chance to come back for an appointment. Like we don't want to lose that case. So if someone says that they have broken a bone, they're currently in the hospital, or they're currently at the scene of the accident, those are some things that will have Kay, the agent, say, if you hold for one moment, I'm going to transfer you to Attorney Hoffman or Attorney whomever, or just an attorney if it's a large firm, so they can speak directly with an attorney. So the attorneys know when that phone rings from that line, that's a very high value case, or one where someone's actively speaking to the police on the side of the road, and they might need to get involved. So that's how we determine. And if it's not that high of an urgency, we schedule an appointment like we would normally do.
Right. Now, from this point, you see, now we have to understand that lawyers are paying a lot. Specifically, PI has a lot of competition, so they're paying hundreds of dollars when somebody clicks their ad, or sometimes they're using LSAs, so they have a lead, right? Now Google says, I gotta charge you when the lead is qualified enough, right? And you can dispute if the lead is not right for you, right? Now, most of the time, this is again a manual process, because Google sends a survey where you have to tell Google whether you are satisfied with the person calling, or not satisfied. Have you solved that problem through K? It could be automated somehow.
In terms of the quality of the leads that are coming in?
Yeah, and then the data, which the lead quality data, or the form that Google requires to fill, because Google recredits your bank account when the lead isn't good enough, right? So it can be done manually, but since we're using AI to qualify, does your AI do that?
Our AI doesn't specifically grade each call, in terms of the quality of the lead. What we do in order to give our clients, especially our new clients, the best chance at taking a look at the quality of the leads that they're going to now be gathering, we start with 30 days, no charge, no credit cards. So we like to give them a window because it's new. And it's not as familiar as Google is. So maybe, they might not know what to expect. So we like to give a 30-day window. It's a very long period of time to give, but we do that so that they can experience what you're mentioning. The quality of new leads, and whether they're happy with that or not. We've had a lot of very good luck with that. That 30-day window, we've had a lot of positive outcomes. But if it takes away the risk, so I think that answers your question, I think, in the best way we can. The agent doesn't specifically grade each call, and there's not really an identical Google type method there, but what we do to kind of speak to that is offer that 30-day window so that they can make their own judgments as to the quality of the leads.
Right. Now, one of those challenges, because we build custom AI agents a lot, right, for people, but the biggest challenge that we have faced is the latency. Because when I talk to you, I have a 2 to 5 seconds thinking and latency time. That's natural, right? But most of these agents, when they are asked with a certain question which isn't in their database, they tend to take longer, right? So how have you solved that problem yet?
So that's a great problem, one that faces everybody, as you mentioned, that works with the voice AI. So then there's many choices, as you know, for systems to use with varying latency. We spent a very, very long time. That was one of our top priorities because, as I mentioned earlier, So people call law firms in a time of usually crisis or extreme need. You don't want to be struggling with the phone call, and people we wanted people to be as comfortable with the AI as possible and make it feel like a natural conversation. So what we did was we honestly tested. It was months and months of testing every system from the OpenAI systems to everything else that we have out there, the 11 Labs stuff in terms of the voices. We went through everything we could find, and we developed a very low latency. And we also did, because sometimes it's unavoidable in terms of if there's just a slowdown and there has to be a slight delay, we have it, so that she will speak to the client while she's thinking. Like if she's scheduling an appointment and the calendar isn't being accessed as quickly, there's some back end issues, she will continue to speak to the client. It won't be dead air. So she will say something like, I guess you could consider it in a way like a filler word, but she will say to the client, I'm checking this out for you right now. I'm sorry, pardon me just for one moment. Or she'll say something like, she's trained to speak to the client, not just leave that silence. And it doesn't sound awkward. It sounds very natural, because the funny thing is sometimes people say, oh, that's not, make it sound like a real person. Well, that is a real person. Real people sometimes have to look something up, and they say, would you mind holding a second? I'm looking for an appointment. So we feel that is a natural thing to have, quote unquote, latency sometimes, because they have work to do, and it's similar to a live human. They also have work to do, which takes a little bit of time. But as long as there's no dead air, there's no silence, we feel like it's doing the best service we can for the client.
Right. Now, here's the thing, if I am a law firm, now the next problem that would potentially come into AI systems is that, like I said, there might not be enough information in the database or the guardrails that I've provided as a client, right? So obviously, all LLMs tend to be helpful, or they're designed to be helpful, but then sometimes when they shouldn't be helpful in a certain scenario where there's a legal interpretation happening. Now, how do you ensure that if I sign up with your service today and I've missed something in the questions that I've added in the back end of the AI, that it doesn't hallucinate? And do you have some sort of warning system, some sort of critical errors that it throws before the whole setup is done?
Yes, we do not. We have guardrails where we have the knowledge base, obviously, for the agent. And if it's not in the knowledge base, it's very strictly coded into the system that it is not, there are no answers provided that are not explicitly in the knowledge base. So if there's a question asked, frequently, I mentioned this before, but the easiest examples are, in our studies, we saw clients asking a lot, do I have a case, or should I sue, or I had a drink at dinner before this car accident. Am I in trouble? Should I tell the police this? Any of those questions are answered with, I am not an attorney. I'm only an assistant, but I'd be happy to connect you with an attorney right away if you need an answer to that question. And if they say, yes, I'd like to be connected, then they will connect. We prefer a live connection with an attorney because that escalates to the practice of law, advising someone on their legal rights or what to do with law enforcement. So we put everything locked into the knowledge base. So if only she can only speak to what she's programmed to in the knowledge base. Anything beyond that, she politely says, I can't help you with that. I'm not an attorney, and then offers to connect the client to an attorney if they certainly want an answer to that question. So that's our process for dealing with that.
Right. Now, one of those, your competitors, Smith AI, does the same thing. But the thing is that the biggest challenge that my clients, when we want to build them custom stuff, Smith AI starts to not understand in noise and nuisance situation. So somebody calling from the street, there's a lot of noise, traffic is going on, people are speaking. So it keeps on asking the questions again and again. Now, how K solves that problem, which Smith still cannot?
So we have not had problems with noise. It's simply the software. I don't think we use the same software. Obviously, haven't built it on the same platforms as Smith AI, who is a great company. Obviously, they do great work, but that's a problem I haven't noticed with their service. But with ours, we did address that because we're aware that clients are going to be calling sometimes from either hospitals, from the actual scene. People will call a lawyer sometimes.
Yeah.
From the store where they slipped and fell, and there's noise around. Strangely, that's the first call they make is to an attorney, not a doctor. But we have tested it in noisy environments, and it's never we never had a problem with it. She's very good at conversation in noisy environments. In fact, there was a conversation I had with my developers where there was one point in her development, I'll be completely open with you, where that was a problem, where she would catch other conversation and sometimes start not maybe answering another, like she would almost hear a word extraneous to some other conversation and get confused with that. So it was addressed, and I'll be frank with you, I'm not sure how they programmed it in, but it was a challenge that we had in developing her that we addressed, and so for now that has not been a problem. I think, and what happens is if she doesn't understand or she gets flustered or hears something else, she'll stop and just politely say, I'm sorry, would you mind repeating that? If she doesn't get a clear answer or a clear input, she will politely just ask again. And it's not ultra sensitive. Like I said, she can hear through noise, but if there is too much noise and interference, she'll just ask again for clarification.
Yeah. And I believe your developers, what they've done is, and that's what we do, it's basically they've put a lot of legal intent words in the database, and they have crossed out the literal word by word matching. So that's why it kind of solves the problem, but it's not always 100% does that correctly. But up till 99% it can do that if you have a large database set up with legal intent words correctly. So that's great. Now, as somebody who develops that, one of those questions which I get a lot, and I want to ask you that question, is that I am using a third-party LLM. It could be GPT, it could be Claude, it could be Grok, any LLM that has been developed. Now, sensitive data, whether it's disability law, it's PI, basically has a lot of medical record, right? And I, as a client, would be very, very afraid that these models would be trained on my data. So now, using a third party puts you at risk as well, because obviously if that LLM, which is controlled by another company, hallucinates, how do you mitigate that risk on your end?
So that was probably the most important thing that we worked on in developing K. So what we do is we encourage, require really our clients to allow us to have her plugged into their software, preferably something modern like Clio, where, and she works very well with Clio, where she will actually have a sectioned off area of information that she can speak to and she can speak about. So we have a K set, we can actually section off the information that she's allowed to refer to or speak about. So that becomes both her knowledge base and the guardrails. So she won't hallucinate because she's using the actual information from the client's own database, and she will not, and she'll know, anything. And it also allows her to be personal with the client, because if it's a client calling back and they're in the system already, she can actually reference a previous phone call. So it's the way we deal with that is we have like a green light area of the information that she's allowed to speak about, and anything that goes beyond that, it goes to an attorney. So there's safe information that she can discuss, and then there's anything beyond that has to be transferred to an attorney.
Right. Now, Eric, we're going to move towards your life journey, and that's how people can actually look up to you, because you have a massive knowledge. And I did check out your book, The Runways Behind You, and everybody who's listening right now, I would recommend that you do get it, because it completely shatters the concept of people launching stuff from their dorm rooms, and then now people in 40s who can actually launch stuff and make it successful, right? So
Right.
a big shout out to you. I'm still in the part where I'm reading it, but I want to know about a few things, right?
Yeah.
So you see the maturity when it comes to launching stuff, right? So Mark Zuckerberg has been an example, and people give a lot of examples with, Apple's founder and Amazon founders, that they started when they were pretty young. And now they're pretty successful. They're multi-million-dollar industries. Why do you think that statistically 40 years old possess a better pattern recognition than 22 years old?
Yeah. That was amazing when I was writing the book, to learn that is actually an advantage to be that age and not a detriment. So I think there's a lot of clear reasons. Number one is you have so much more life experience. That life experience helps you to speak clearer, usually to your target market, to identify whom you're speaking to, and then to develop the best messaging to them. I think it makes it a quicker path from A to B to get to be that marketer, that salesperson. Your communication, I think, is more honed over years of experience. There's actually the simple thing in the financial part of it. Financially, you're usually, hopefully, have a little more freedom in your middle age than you would coming out of your dorm room or living with your family. You might have some money saved, allow you some more freedom to financially become an entrepreneur, which is, sometimes it's the dirty word, the financial part of it, but that's probably one of the most difficult things about being an entrepreneur, is making the financial jump, and the change that way. Those are some things that come to mind, but I think just being forged in the fire of life and, matured to a certain degree, hopefully. I think that makes you a much sharper business person. And I think you can get answers through less of a trial and error process and a little bit more of, oh, I've lived through similar situations like this before, so therefore I can get the correct way to respond faster than maybe a younger person who has not had as many life experiences where they have to do a little more trial and error. So those are some of the ideas I have for why people do better in middle age as entrepreneurs.
Right. Now, obviously, when you launch a product like this, right? So you need, market validation in the start. Now, could you shed some light on how did you validate this idea initially? Was there a system that it was implemented? How did you know there was an active need of this particular software and people are ready to buy this software?
So I was working in a law firm when I saw AI just explode out of nowhere, and I saw it being adopted in other industries, and I said that the law is really the perfect industry to be. First of all, it was in the need of being updated in general because it tends to be very old fashioned, but it really, there were so many specific things that I could see AI being able to improve. So when I saw that connection, I started to try to bring it to some other attorneys, people that worked in other firms, and there was a lot of excitement. I remember one really great story of it was perplexity. I was working on a case, and it was a fall down a staircase outdoors, and I could not, and my colleagues could not figure out how to argue this because there were no witnesses, there was no video, but I had pictures from my own investigation of the scene. So I actually took a picture. This might not seem so amazing now, but this is maybe a year and a half ago. I uploaded the picture of the staircase to Perplexity and said, tell me any danger signs or violations you see here, any way I can argue as a plaintiff's attorney, for an injury, a fall on this staircase. It gave back, I think, about 12 building code violations that it noticed just from the picture. It could tell, the guardrails are 18 inches, are not 18 inches from each other, they're 25. It was a shock to us as attorneys. We didn't even think of that. Never mind 12 different, and it cited the code, sections of the code. It even recommended how to write the argument. I mean, so Perplexity, I remember that one story really blew us away. And I said, there's definitely a market for this. If they could do things like this, I mean, it's a no-brainer. So that's when I said this is a serious development, and there's a market for it.
Right. So that basically came from, obviously that validates your point that obviously person who's already working in the industry, he knows what problems are there. Obviously, looking at the picture, you would take hours to figure out reading building codes that what I can take out of them. So that's actually one of those things that you've talked about in the book. That's great. Now the thing is, for somebody who isn't in the law, right? He has a brilliant idea. He might have talked to different people. Maybe his brother is in law, or maybe somebody else in the family. Now he has this idea he wants to launch, right? Now you have a better position because you're in law, you know a lot of attorneys. But then that guy doesn't know a lot of attorneys, but he is solving a real problem. How do you think that person will get to attorneys and at least have them listen to him?
Social proof is number one. Attorneys are number one risk averse, so you're not going to win a lot of clients by showing something new and unproven to them. The best way to come after attorneys specifically is to show proof, to show evidence, to take risk and eliminate it completely. Attorneys are completely risk. We're trained to be averse to risk, and we actually are trained and paid to take away risk for our clients. So risk is the big boogeyman for us. You need to, I think you do that through social proof. I think if you can find someone if you take anyone who does, at the early stages, does purchase your product, does implement it, take that and get the testimonials, make the case studies, put that up on a website or a lead magnet or whatever you can do to make sure it's known to other clients, because attorneys are also very monkey see, monkey do. So as much as they're risk averse, if they see other people doing something, they're very FOMO about it. They're very much like, am I missing out on something I should be doing? So that's it. Speaking of attorneys specifically, if you're not an attorney, you want to get into that market, the number one thing, and I think most people would agree with me, would be to get that social proof and take away the risk. And I think you would have some good luck doing so.
Yeah. And one of those things which I want to share to everybody who's listening, who's trying to build their own legal tech products, is that if you try to send attorneys like thousands of emails, you cold call them, probably going to get shut down the hardest. Because in my experience, I think attorneys are the final boss of any game. So they are very, very risk averse, that, like you said, but they are also good listeners because they also do that. So what you can do, anybody who's listening, you have a product. Instead of selling that product to the attorneys, ask them if they could partner with you in selling that. A lot of attorneys, if they see the value, they would recommend. And if they recommend, then that is the number one thing that you can do to sell your product, because a recommendation from another attorney like Eric just mentioned, the FOMO is real and they will definitely at least look at the product. So that's one thing.
Absolutely.
But then, do you think, is it a good idea that in the early stages, if you're not a legal tech, if you're legal tech founder, have no legal experience, do not have a law degree, is it a good idea to have a co-founder who's an attorney who can market your product?
Yes. What I would do is I would actually, there's something that attorneys do like to do, and you could take advantage of it in that situation. Attorneys love to give advice and to be, trying to make sure I don't say something the wrong way, but to be the smartest guy in the room, I guess, to give their opinion. They like to be the expert. So the way I even leverage that is, and you could leverage that if someone in that situation, is contact attorneys and gently ask, look, I'm creating a business, an endeavor here. Would you mind being on a council of attorneys that would advise me on how to bring this to market properly? I would only need to ask you a few questions, maybe about your pain points and so on. And there's nothing an attorney likes more, than to to complain about how hard they work. So if you ask a few attorneys, I believe you'd be very successful in collecting a few who would be available to you to bounce your ideas off of and to give you that insight that someone like myself has firsthand. but I think you would be able to get a council of advisors that way. And instead of just partnering with one, maybe you could partner with a few and have some as advisors going forward. I think that would be a mutually beneficial relationship if you did that.
Yeah. Now, Eric, we'll move towards the marketing side of this. You're here having a podcast. I see your face. I've met you. I know who Eric is, right? But I might not know AI Esquire unless I see your face. Do you think it's important that the brand is developed around the founder, or is it more important that the brand is developed around the software that you're selling?
I'm not sure you have a choice. I think that the brand is organically going to grow around the founder, especially in the startup framework, because I make the decisions and everything that touches my brand, I'm involved with at least in some way. So I think that the company grows around the founder, and we work with a wonderful marketing person who is very knowledgeable about this, and her opinion is that every brand, every company has one of several types of personalities, and it always it reflects the personality of the founder. And you look at brands like, there's like the rebellious one, like the Virgin Atlantic, with Richard Branson type people who are rebels. I think they have. Then there's like the luxury brand, like the Ralph Lauren's and Louis Vuitton's, and then you look at those founders, and they're these prim and proper, European types who reflect that upscale image. So I guess in a lot of ways, in my opinion, the company, it grows naturally around the founder and not the product, really.
Right. That's great. Now, in the last section, I just want to tell the attorneys who are listening today that do sign up on AI Esquire, because the 30-day guarantee is amazing, and you shouldn't actually think twice, because obviously, unless you don't try something, you don't know how good that is. And then Eric's, I'm sure that you would be open to feedback. And the wonderful thing about SaaS companies is that they launch their product and then they refine their product with your feedback. And if you sign up on his website, try this, give him feedback, I'm sure AI Esquire is going to do wonderfully well. So, Eric, is there anything you would like to say to my audience before we close the podcast?
I would just like to say that if I could do anything, I really would like to be, I hate to say inspiration, but I would like to maybe be somebody who can tell other people who have this feeling that something's inside their head or their heart that they want to create. There's a way to do it without, standing up from your desk and leaving your job and just walking out. You could do it gradually, and like I said, with advisors maybe who are in the field. I just want to encourage you that if you do have this itch to maybe start something, whether you're 20-something, whether you're 40-something, 60-something, and that's what my book is about. Again, is if you have something inside you, and I believe this passionately, I really want you to give it your best shot to really bring it to life. And and again, if you want to reach out to me personally, and you say that you listened to me on this podcast and you had any questions or want to discuss, you could email me, and I'll send you a free copy of the book. I mean, that's how much I believe in it. I hope you don't mind if I just give my email address.
Yes, sure. We'll put that in the description.
Oh, it's on. Okay, so that's in the
Yeah.
description. And please go ahead and email me if you want a copy of the book. Just tell me you heard me on the podcast, and I will be happy to send it to you at no charge, because I really want you to, be empowered to bring any ideas you have to life like I did.
That's great. I think there's nothing, more than the value that you're giving right now to people and the inspiration. And I look forward to speaking to you again, Eric. It was a wonderful conversation.
Same.
I really appreciate you joining in today.
That was wonderful. What a great conversation. I really appreciate it.